All right, man. You boasted about, I don't know, pretty sweet places you've traveled, things you've seen, ladies you've hung out with, all very modest things.
Yes.
But I also know you're
Stay humble.
super cheap, man. There has to have been gross spots that you've stayed just to get a gig or see a place or do a thing. I need like a top 5 list of the best, worst places you've ever stayed.
I will stay legitimately anywhere. I don't care if it's dangerous or it's dirty. If it's a place I can stay and I'm somewhere cool or somewhere I want to be, I do not care. I can also go all around the world and stay all these places like for nothing. My goal is to stay everywhere for free. Always. So I don't care if you have like a couch. I don't care if it's just like random little cot, your basement, your floor. I will stay there for as little money as I can.
Actually, that'd be a fun campaign. Hey, if you live in an interesting place, send us a picture and then of a floor where Jake can sleep. And maybe we'll choose you.
If it's a cool city or place, I will stay there on the floor. I'm not staying on a floor necessarily in Noblesville, Indiana, but if your floor is in Florence, I will stay there.
What's the difference between Florence and Noblesville?
It's negligible.
Clearly.
But yeah, I've had a few times where I stayed in some seedy places and some really questionable ones. So you said a list of top 5?
Oh yeah, we got to do top 5 countdown, starting with like the least worst of the worst places.
Ooh. I can't give you a good order. I can think of the ones that pop off the top of my head though.
Fine.
So like recently I stayed in a crack house in London.
A crack house.
And then a few days later, I stayed on the floor of a hostel in Nuremberg because there was a misunderstanding. And then I stayed on the couch of this really awesome family in Norway for a minute. My van has been the place I reside a lot. Oh, and in Ireland, when I stayed in Ireland recently, I stayed in my buddy Connor's closet for like 4 or 5 days.
I'm going to rank these then.
Okay.
Try and remember them. I mean, #van life seems super glamorous. So how could that have been bad?
Yep. So I had a 91 Astra van that was half purple, half green. Super dope. I took it. No, I didn't take it to see Afro Man. I think I said that in that episode, and Tony called me out on it. I had a Tempo at that time.
I'm glad that there are people fact checking you. You're a liar.
It's good. Because I have a bad memory, but I remember the important stuff like hanging out with Afro Man. But the van I had for a couple of years, and I would go from show to show to show, and to school and to work and everything, and legit just sleep in my van because I had a small mattress in the back. So for weeks at a time, over years, I slept just straight up in the van.
I think that you could often be found too at a park reading a book in your van.
Yeah, I would stay anywhere. Parks, parking lots, school.
All this just seems very creepy. Picture a bearded guy like Jake. Just the sliding door opens, sitting in a park where children play, reading a book.
That's the trouble with this world nowadays. Like that stuff is frowned upon, or people assume the worst of a guy just trying not to pay rent.
All right, logistic questions. Because you did just have a van with, wasn't it like a futon mattress? You took out the back 2 rows and just put a futon mattress.
Yep.
What'd you do when it was hot?
I would just there were sliding windows on the side, so I could open those sliding windows and roll down the windows. And then I had a little baby fan, and that little baby fan plugged into my AC, the adapter in my car. So that was my AC.
Bathroom?
I would always have to stay somewhere where there was a bathroom I could go easily. Like even if it was just like a rest stop or something.
Showers? Same deal?
Yeah. If I was still in school and stuff, so I could always shower in the gym at school. Or if I was like on the road in another gym, like Anytime Fitness or something, I could shower. And then whenever I was at an actual wrestling show that had a shower and legit locker room, I could shower. So I didn't go very long without showering.
You and the rest of the boys at the show just hop in there together. Good games all around.
Yeah, nothing weird. Doesn't have to be weird.
Well, at least there was running water. What of this place with no electricity and running water?
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That was a different one. So that's like the 6th.
What?
Yeah. So when I stayed with my buddy Jesper in Denmark recently, I stayed at his place for a week-ish that had no electricity or running water. The entire community he lived in didn't. And there was an outhouse technically on the premises, but it was closed when I was there.
Is this like a communal outhouse or his outhouse?
It's a communal outhouse. So everyone in the neighborhood would, in theory, use this. However, it was closed for like the season. So you have to go into town at some point just to go to the restroom if you had to.
What season means that the bathroom's closed?
Dude, don't ask me. I had to explain exactly how the logistics work. I think that's a thing that you probably need at all times of year.
Right.
Well, and I should say there was like a drainage pipe out behind his house if a male had to use the drainage pipe for, the thing we can do. But at some point in the day, you had to go into town if you wanted to use the restroom. I would go into town every morning so I could charge my phone and battery pack and kind of plan my day and pull up a map and figure out where I needed to go and have a cup of coffee. And that would take, 30, 40 minutes. And obviously I could use the restroom there, and then I'd go to the gym later anyway. So I could always use the restroom there, and then I could shower after I used the gym.
How far away was town?
It was the closest restroom you probably could use was like a 10-minute walk, and not everybody in that village had vehicles. We didn't have vehicles. So like a 10-minute walk, and then another 5 or 10-minute walk into like the actual downtown part of the city of Copenhagen.
Where did you physically sleep? Like, I'm envisioning you're living in some kind of a concrete block square, and you have a spot of dirt on the floor.
This was pretty legit. It was, imagine like a really nice country house, but it's one room. It's just a room. So this is a 1-bedroom house, and there's no other thing in it. There's no kitchen or anything either. It's legit just one room. However, there was built into the top what was kind of like an attic area, but if you looked up, it looked like a top bunk. It was just really the size of a top bunk bed, built into like kind of the ceiling and wall. So I slept in this like top bunk area, and there were some mattresses, like there were some pillows and mattresses and stuff up there, as if somebody had used it to sleep before. So yeah, I would just climb the little ladder up the wall and sneak into the little cubby hole.
So that's you moving up in the world, man. Your own little space, a house with a roof.
Big Sean wrote the song On Top of the World about things just like this.
I don't have any other clever Big Sean reference. The only other song I know is So Moving Up then. Well, I don't even know if it's moving up, because you're dude, you couch surfed with a guy, right?
Yeah, the first time I went to Europe, I ended up couch surfing in Bergen, Norway with this dude named Bast and his family. And I actually used couchsurfing.org to help me with that one. Do you know Couchsurfing, the website?
I know the premise, but it's a .org. Like, does that mean it's a not-for-profit deal?
Oh, yeah, there's no profit. It's legit. On couchsurfing.org, you can post, I have a room, or I have a couch, or I have this. And if you want to travel to this city, you can stay on it for a couple days. And then there's a bunch of things where there's like a checklist. If you meet these, some people don't care anything about you. Some people want to know everything.
So it's almost like an altruistic B&B because there's no money.
Yeah, pretty much. So I had posted a thing online saying, oh, hey, I'm going to be in Bergen, Norway these 4 days, hoping that someone would reach out to me. I also posted one in like 5 other cities on that trip. No one reached out to me in any of them. Because in a busier city, you have all these people trying to travel and stay places for free. And you can also like find all those rooms and you message the person directly. Normally you have to do that. And I messaged probably 10 people in every other city, and no one got back to me. But no one in Bergen, Norway wanted to host couch surfers. So like nothing really popped up as available. So I posted a general thing online 2 months, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ahead of time. And this dude just hit me up. It was like, hey, if you want to stay here, you can stay here. So I was like, great, count me in. And so and this is a small city, like the smaller city you go to, the harder it is to find somebody who's going to let you crash at their place. But Boss was on paternity leave from work. So he had 3 months to just chill and hang out with his newborn baby. And he decided to share the wealth, share the couch.
Those Norwegians and their paternity leave.
Yeah. Do you know how it works there?
They get insane time off because they care about families and children and such.
Yeah. Yeah. People there don't even have kids young or very often because there's free education. People focus on their career. And then when you have a kid, the wife gets the first 9 months off, and then the man gets the next 3 months off. So you get a year off to raise your kid the right way.
It's too close to communism. I don't know if I can support this.
Yeah, well, you sound very American.
I appreciate that. I mean, I think you meant it to be insulting.
It is
but
Memorial
I found it
Day.
endearing.
Freedom. So I ended up, it's crashing with Boss for like 4 days, and his wife Maria, and their beautiful little daughter, who is like an actual human now. She's like 6 or something like that. They have another kid.
And they let some strange man hang around their impressionable daughter.
Yep. I mean, Boss he's the best. We still talk sometimes. He'd spent like 8 months in America. His English was pretty good. And we discussed all sorts of great stuff, and he let me sleep on his couch. And Bergen isn't like the most easily accessible place. I wonder if he's couch surfed host in anyone's sense.
Ooh, were you his first?
I think so. I think it was his first. I should ask him if anyone else has ever stayed there.
After experiencing you, would you allow others to surf your couch?
I think I was a pretty good person to host. However, we did try to make him dinner one night, and it was really bad. Tried to make him spaghetti and somehow like screwed it up.
How do you screw up spaghetti?
Dude, don't ask me. I'm not a cook, man, but like the spaghetti itself was okay, and I think we'd gotten some like garlic bread as a side to make him or something, but it just wasn't very good, and everything there was super expensive, so it's not like I spent a ton of money on it. I feel really bad now.
Do you go both ways? Like, you've surfed couch, will you allow others to surf your couch?
Oh yeah. I've hosted a lot of people. That's a story for another day, Pete. Yeah.
Well, we do have 2 spots remaining. I was saving the crack house for the finale. I don't remember.
I said what? Crack house? Connor's Closet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is a city?
What?
Connor's Closet is a place, or are you talking like Harry Potter?
It's like Plato's Closet. You just go exchange your old threads for new ones. Now, so last August, I should preface this. Actually, the next 3 stories all come from the same trip. So last August, I went to Europe for a month, and before I left, I had a place to stay. I was told I would stay somewhere in Middle England for the month. And then the day before I left, my buddy was like, "Oh, hey man, that place we had to stay, like you can't stay there anymore."
Dope.
And I was like, well, "Okay, then what are we doing, man?" And my buddy's like, "Oh, well, I can still stay." I was like, "Oh, all right then. What should I do?" He's like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry."
That's awesome.
Yep. So I was like, "Oh, okay. Now I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm staying for the next month." Slightly stressful, Pete. Now I've wandered into a lot of cities and just kind of wung it with like places to stay, but I actually thought I had this one figured out. So it made it significantly worse.
Is that an expression? Wung it?
Wung it. It is now. And
Nice.
It is in Europe. I was very whelmed. So Connor's Closet at the end of the month. So I scrambled to find all these places to stay, right? And some places were really, really great. Some places were not so great. And some places were like in between. Now, this is a place I thought was great, but most people probably wouldn't. So I get home with my buddy Connor, who's a tour guide in Ireland. And that's how I met him years ago. We just stayed in touch, and like we never hung out or anything. I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm going to be in Dublin. Do you have a place I could crash?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely, man. You can stay at my place." Now, I thought he was going to say like I could stay on the floor of his apartment. So he kept like apologizing for it. Like, "Hey, man, it's nothing pretty." It's like, "Dude, I don't care. A place to stay would be great." So I show up, and I meet up with him. Also, like at the second I meet up with him, he ended up having to like give a tour that night he wasn't supposed to. So I went on the pub tour with him and a bunch of people. I met all these great tourists, and I didn't drink, and they all got pretty hammered. And that was really funny. I learned a lot about the city because Connor was able, like, historian / beer expert / local bar expert
/ closet haver.
Yep. So I got back to his place, and he lives in like a really boss part of town. And he was like, "All right, man, here, I'll show you to your room." I was like, "Oh yeah, my room." So he shows me up like one flight of stairs, because he has a flat, and there's like three floors, but in between 2 of the floors are closets, very small closets. And he showed me to what would be my closet. And so he opens the door, and legit, this closet is the size of a twin mattress. That's legit. The only thing you could get in there, a twin mattress, and there was a little dresser, and there was a twin mattress in it. Fantastic privacy, Pete. Like, I got a private suite in Dublin, Ireland. So I stayed in his twin mattress size closet for 4 days.
We talking like hollow core, full panel door? Are we talking like louvered closets to where you can like peek in and out? You like when you say closet, what do you mean?
Oh, there's a legit door. I mean, there's a legit door, and there was a window in it.
What?
Yeah, there was a window in the closet going to the outside too. So I got my own private room for 4 days. It was actually great. I don't need space. I was out and about most of the time anyway, so I just got to sleep in there.
That sounds slightly better than prison. Like toilet nearby?
Yeah, there was a toilet. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep. And then the cool thing too was I was like, man, if I wanted to like stay in Dublin, I would have just asked him like, hey, can I rent out your closet? Like, can I rent out that room? I totally could have stayed there for a few months, no problem. Like if I had wrestling training there and shows and stuff, I could have made that work. Most people probably would have hated it, but I liked it actually.
Well, where would you hang all your kilts and stuff though?
Yeah, I'd have to buy a shelf. But I traveled out of just a backpack, so I didn't have a lot to hang out with. Like I didn't have too much. I guess I probably would have had to buy new stuff or find a laundry or something.
All right, and then the crack house. Like legit crack house or just a spot that looked gross and crack sellish?
Technically, it was a hostel.
Crack hostel?
Technically, it was a hostel.
Is this an Eli Roth film?
Man, you know how much that room hurt the hostel business? Every time I talk about staying in hostels, the first thing anyone ever brings up is that movie. And like, oh, I would never stay in a hostel. Like, it was a movie.
Well, and to be fair, the hostel looked really nice and like a great place to stay until like, you know, truly.
I never saw the movie.
What?
I never saw the movie. I've stayed in some great hostels, though. I've stayed in some super awesome places. And for anyone who doesn't know, a hostel is essentially you rent a bed in a dorm for a night. And a lot of the places have like a little kitchen area and like a lobby for breakfast. Some of them hook you up with free breakfast and you get to meet other travelers, and usually they'll take you out and you go do something cool. Like in the previous episode when I stayed in Scotland, I stayed in the hostel. I went out with comedy night. I ended up hanging out with 7 girls all night. Definitely wasn't the worst thing I've ever done. So like there was that. And
There we
then
go. Top 5 worst things Jake has ever done. Next episode.
Yeah, hang out with 7 girls. And like my buddy Ron and I crashed in one. Ace and I crashed in one in Germany. That was another part of the story too. Anyway, but the crack house in London, the first place I ended up staying after everything fell through was this place in London. And I was like, okay. I should also mention, because I didn't have a place to stay one night, I did sleep in Green Park in London. Like just in the park.
Straight up transient guy sleeping in a park.
Yeah, so in case you don't know, there's Buckingham Palace, and there's like this gigantic park next to Buckingham Palace. I totally just slept there one night because I didn't have anywhere to go.
It's probably not like Buckingham Palace grounds or anything though, right?
I don't think so. It's just like a public park next to the Buckingham Palace.
So you'd almost argue, well, yeah, I stayed,
I stayed a night at the palace. Yeah. I'm going to say that now.
I slept at the foot of the palace. I was there. No big deal.
I'm gonna look it up now. But yeah, I didn't have a place to stay one night, so I did legit just stay in the park. I was hoping that no one would come by in the middle of the night and like wake me up and tell me I had to move, thinking I was homeless. I was still dressed really nice, so I didn't think that would be a problem. And then I was just gonna play it off like I just fell asleep, because people just fall asleep at the park, obviously. So like I put my passport like in my back pocket and like my phone in my back pocket and kind of like laid on them, and then I used my bag as a pillow. And obviously I'm just a student who's traveling and fell asleep. How dumb. But and then the next thing was in London, I was like, all right, I better find a hostel. So I found a hostel for $8 a night. And I was like, you know what? I'm a frugal guy. Hostels are normally like $20-$30 a night. That's for a good hostel. So I figured this wouldn't be the best. Okay.
Probably no continental breakfast at this one.
Probably no breakfast. I was like, you know what? Wi-Fi and a bed. That's all Jake needs. So I go ahead and I hop on a bus and go really far out of actual London city. And I hop on another bus, and then I get off the bus and I have to walk like half a mile to my hostel. And the second as I'm riding on the bus, I feel like we crossed one specific street barrier and it just turned into a different country. Anyway, yeah, so I entered District 9. It's just like, oh, this is a different part. It was still a busy part of the city, but it was completely different. All of a sudden, there was nothing in English in England. And then I walked down the road. on my walk from the bus stop to the hostel, I saw 3 drug deals.
How do you know they were drug deals?
If you've lived some life, you can tell what a drug deal is from far away. Some people who listen might not be able to. But to me, who's been around a little bit, I know these were drug deals. They're very obvious drug deals. I should say this too. The few times I went to get food, I went into these different markets. Well, they were all different ethnic markets. So I also was shopping in places that I couldn't read anything on the cans. And I'd be like, well, this looks like meat. And it's half a pound, so I better take 4 of them. Another way I'm frugal on the road. People probably don't want to travel that way. And then I get to the hostel, and it's called the Number 8 at the White Horse. And the White Horse is a bar. And the hostel is the Number 8 at the White Horse, which some hostels are built above bars, which makes complete sense. And then you get a discount if you want to drink at the bar. Oh. So, that's cool. And you get to meet other people. Normally at a hostel, you'd meet better people than the people that were at this hostel, though, because it was like a very scummy hostel. So I check in, and this place it's pretty dirty. Like, it's not very good. I'm like, okay, it's cool. It's still worth $8 a night. I saw some drug deals. It's fine. We'll just go and flash forward to that night. That night, I go up to my bed to sleep. It's like midnight. And I'm on the top bunk. I'm on the second floor, and I look outside, and there's 2 hookers working the street corner. 2 very obvious prostitutes working the street corner. And I even pulled out my phone to record some of it. I might put that online as an attachment with this. But I hear them like speaking a little bit, and they're speaking some Eastern European language. But I can't understand them. I can barely hear them. And at one point, a car pulls up to them. They walk to the driver's window, have maybe like a 2 or 3 minute conversation. And then I just hear a lot of yelling from those 2 women to the car, and the car drives off. And then they walk back to their corner, and they just seem kind of like pissed. But then a second later, the same car like pulls right back up, and they go and have another negotiation. Like, they go have another conversation, but then it ends in more yelling, and the car actually drives off again.
Couldn't come up with the necessary funds.
I don't know what he was trying to get and what he was trying to get it for, but apparently it wasn't good. And I sit and watched them for a little while, and then they ended up walking like up the block to another corner. And it wasn't too far after that I was like, all right, well, I'll try and sleep now. And maybe 60 seconds after I tried to sleep, this guy starts poking me. And he can't speak English except to say, "You're in my bed." I'm like, "What? My bed, my bed, my bed." I'm like, no, man, my bed. And we had this back and forth, and he's like, "My bed." I'm like, "No, man." Fine. I was like, "Let's go to reception. Like, let's go downstairs." So we both go down to the lobby, and I'm like, "Oh, man." Like, I'm just so frustrated. It's like, I just want to sleep now. Well, it turns out I was totally in his bed. Yeah, totally wasn't my bed. It was his. But they booked us the same bed. He just checked in at like 2 p.m. and I checked in at 4 p.m. And they assigned us to the same bunk. So, because we were supposed to be in I think like a 16-person room. And that room was totally full, and someone made a mistake. So I ended up getting switched to, I think, a 6-person room, which is a step up in a way. But it didn't make me feel more comfortable about the situation. Yeah, the long and short of that one. So I stayed in that crack house for a couple days, saw more drug deals, and then I ended up leaving London, and then I came back a few days later, and I stayed at a $22 a night hostel with free breakfast.
Whoa.
Totally worth it.
Is that after you got paid for the show? You had that kind of cash?
Yeah, I had the money. Yeah, so I went to Germany for a few days, where also slight other hostel story. I was in London those 2 days at the crack house, went to Nuremberg, Germany to wrestle, and there were only 2 hostels in Nuremberg, so I booked one of them, and Ace and I stayed there for 2 nights, and we were hoping we could crash with one of the wrestlers after the show on Saturday, so we didn't book that night. But it looked like that probably wasn't going to happen, so right before we left the hostel, I booked a 3rd night. So we go and wrestle, and then we get a ride back to the hostel that night, and we put in our door code at the door. Some of them have door code. So I put in our door code, and it just doesn't work. Oh, shoot. So we click it a few times, doesn't work. And there's also a button on there to call the owner of the hostel, who, by the way, liked me when we checked in because I told him my actual name to check in and have to give him your passport. And he was like, good German name. And I was like, yes. He's like, your family German? In like a very strong voice. I'm like, yeah. I was like, yes, I'm German. I was like, first time in Germany. And he just like put up a fist, like, yes, like powerful other Germans here. I like you. And then he looked at Ace and there was obvious hatred for him not being German. So that was pretty cool. But he didn't like it when I clicked the button to ring him at like 1 a.m. through the the speaker. Obviously, it woke him up. And I was like, oh, yeah, door code doesn't work. And he was like, all right. And he typed in, he's like, say, and he gave us the five digits to open the door. So we open the door. We go up to the room. Are like, well, what code do we use to get into our room? Because you also needed to get into the room. But the door was cracked open. So like we just go ahead and open and we look at what should be our beds in a 6-bedroom room and they're taken. There's someone already sleeping in them. Like, oh, shoot. Like, this is stupid. So we hang out for a little while. We try and call the dude back to be like, oh, hey, man, there's someone in our beds. And he won't answer. Like, he's probably just completely ignoring us, like, as much as he can. And then we're like, all right, well, you know what, man? Let's just... Oh, and I should say the other 4 beds had backpacks on them. So obviously someone went in the room, threw their backpack on the bed, which is what you should do. Just like, hey, let people know that's your bed so no one accidentally grabs yours, because that happens all the time. I've had it happen before, too, in better hostels. This was a nice one. But so obviously all 6 beds are full. So try and ring him another couple times and nothing. So we're standing up, we're just talking, and we're in 2 chairs in the room. And then like a group of 4 dudes comes in to take their 4 beds. And they're like looking at us like, hey, man, what are you guys doing here? Because there's 2 guys too many in this room. We're like, oh, hey, yeah, we're just trying to get a hold of the landlord, dude, because these are our beds and there's dudes asleep in them. And they're like, oh, okay. And they were there for a bachelor party from some other big city in Germany. It wasn't Berlin. I think they were in town from Munich. And we just talked to them for a little while. And they're like, hey, guys, sorry about this. I hope you don't mind, but we're just going to sleep on the floor. So we just slept on the floor at that hostel. And then over the next like 2 weeks, man, I had like a series of really weird emails back and forth trying to get my money back for that night. But I got my money back. So that was a win.
What was that conversation like? It seems real obvious. Hey, do you have 8 reservations, 8 people paid for a 6-person room? Give me my money.
Yeah, the whole thing was they said, well, because I was like, I tried to explain the situation, and they were like, oh, you only paid for 2 nights, like Thursday, Friday. I was like, no, before I left on Saturday, I paid for another night. And then, so it took a while just to get that point across. And then it was like, no, you didn't have a reservation that night. I was like, no, I did, because we paid for it. I have my receipt. Then they ended up looking in their system, and instead of putting in the reservation for August 4th or 5th or whatever the day was, they put in the reservation for July 5th. So they put us like, they booked us for a room and we paid for the room for like a month before. And it took them a while to figure that out. But then eventually when they figured it out, they actually like refunded me the money.
Gave you your $22.
Yeah, but it was really hard. It might have been 25 or 6.
Oh.
But it was really hard to like, and I paid for the bed for Ace and I, so it was double that. And not that I was keeping track, you know, because I'm still rich. But so it took a while to actually figure all of that out. But I ended up getting it back, and they didn't speak great English, so it was a bit of a struggle. But nothing I'm not used to, Pete.
But Jake got his money because he's about his money.
Dollar
bill.
Money. Yeah. All right, Pete. I appreciate it, sir. Also, you think we should switch to putting this thing out on Wednesday instead of Tuesdays, just because
we could do it? Might be easier. It's your call. You whatever feels.
I'd ask for reviews or people to add us, but that's not going to happen.
Ooh, I think you gotta incite anger by calling them pricks. You know, like 4-star reviewers. That got a reaction.
It is an idea. I'll think about it next time. At Off the Cliff Pod on everything. Pete's at Multimedia Hustle on everything. I'm at Jake Oman 2012. Oh, I have a professional wrestling show in 2 weeks at White River Wrestling, June 8th at Grand Park in Westfield. Should probably come check that out too. That's going to be awesome. Come see me do my thing. Peace.